Hi, everyone. I'm Helen Tyler, 33 years old and one of the top real estate agents in Boston, a title I earned through sheer determination after growing up with almost nothing. But this story isn't about my success. It's about how success can make you a target. Helen, you've truly outdone yourself with this house, my best friend Maria said, sipping her coffee as we sat on my freshly furnished porch. Thanks, Maria. 3 years of saving every commission and enduring that tiny studio apartment finally paid off. I smiled proudly, though the shadow of my mother-in-law's disdain hung over me. Of course, according to Andrea, this house is quaint, not quite up to what her precious son deserves. Maria rolled her eyes dramatically. Speaking of the devil's favorite pediatrician, how's married life treating you? Jack is wonderful when his mother isn't pulling his strings, I admitted. Just yesterday. Helen, darling. Andrea's voice cut through the air like nails on a chalkboard as she waltzed up my driveway uninvited. Andrea. I greeted her stiffly, inwardly cringing. Before I could say more, Jack's voice followed hers. Mom, what are you doing here? He called out, walking up from the driveway, still in his scrubs. Andrea clasped her hands as if she'd just spotted a celebrity. Oh, Jack, sweetheart. Your father and I were just talking about you over lunch. He agrees. You're working far too hard at that public hospital. My friend Margaret's private practice is hiring. You'd make such a better impression there. Jack sighed. Mom, we've been over this. I love my job. I'm not switching. But darling. Eleanor, there you are. Patricia, Andrea's equally insufferable sister, barged through my still open front door. You won't believe what Margaret told me about Helen's old neighborhood. She gave me a condescending smile. Speaking of family, Robert and I are hosting Sunday dinner. Helen, dear, try to dress appropriately this time. I glanced at Jack, whose expression crumbled under the weight of yet another confrontation. Years of Andrea's emotional manipulation had worn him down. Actually, I said firmly, we already have plans. But it's family dinner. Andrea gasped. Jack hasn't missed one, not even when he had the flu last year. Remember how I nursed you back to health, sweetheart? Mom, Jack began, but I cut him off. It's fine, Jack. This was my life now, a revolving door of Wilson family drama, with my husband caught in the crossfire and my home turned into their personal gathering spot. Little did I know, though, that Andrea's antics were only beginning. The next escalation came over a mahogany dining table at Andrea's house. She had summoned me under the guise of an important birthday discussion. Helen, dear, Andrea began, clasping her perfectly manicured hands. You clearly don't understand Wilson family traditions. For milestone birthdays, we give substantial gifts. When Robert turned 60, his brother gave him his beach house. I frowned. This is my house, bought with my own money, before I even met Jack. Exactly, Andrea said with a syrupy smile. That's why it would make such a meaningful gesture. Show us you're truly committed to becoming a Wilson. I stared at her in disbelief and without a word, discreetly started recording the conversation on my phone. Let me get this straight. You're banning me from your birthday celebration unless I sign over my house to you. Don't be so dramatic, Andrea replied. I'm simply suggesting that if you want to be included in family traditions, you need to demonstrate proper family values. My phone buzzed. A text from Maria. You won't believe what I just heard at the country club. Your NIL's been showing some decorator around your house. Who's Amanda Phillips? I asked Andrea, watching her expression. Andrea blinked, feigning innocence. I don't know who that is. Really? Because she's telling everyone she's redesigning my house after your birthday. Well, Andrea said with a dismissive shrug, I naturally assumed you'd want to give me something special. At that moment, Jack walked into the dining room. Mom, what's going on? Helen looks upset. Oh, honey, I was just explaining our family tradition to your wife, Andrea cooed. She seems resistant to embracing it. What tradition? Jack asked, his brow furrowing. Your mother wants me to sign over our house as her birthday gift, I said evenly. Jack froze. Mom, that's insane. Jack Wilson. Andrea's voice rose, sharp with indignation. After everything I've sacrificed for you, this is exactly what I warned everyone about. Andrea's voice climbed to a shrill pitch, her eyes blazing with righteous indignation. She's turned you against your own mother, Jack. Just like she trapped you with that house in the first place. Trapped him? I snapped, my voice trembling with restrained fury. What are you even talking about, Andrea? Oh, don't play innocent, she sneered. Everyone knows you bought that house to lure my son into marriage. Poor Jack was too naive to see through your gold-digging scheme. My hands clenched into fists. I bought that house years before I even met Jack. I have the paperwork to prove it. Jack stepped forward, his voice tight with disbelief. Mom, how could you say that? Helen worked hard for that house. Hard work? Andrea laughed bitterly. Please, we all know about her arrangements with certain clients. Before I could respond, the front door swung open, and Maria marched in, clutching a folder. Perfect timing, she said, glaring at Andrea. Actually, Andrea, I've got some interesting documents here. Remember the Hendersons? They're saying you pulled the same stunt with them. Demanded their summer cottage for Robert's 55th birthday. And the Paddles? Their vintage car collection. Andrea's face paled. That's private family business. Just like how you bankrupted your own sister trying to get her vineyard. Maria added coldly. Patricia told me everything. Jack turned to his mother, his expression devastated. Mom, is this true? Jack, darling, Andrea said, her tone turning saccharine. You don't understand. Everything I do is for this family's reputation. Helen simply isn't good enough for you. I mean, look at her background. Jack's jaw tightened. The only thing not good enough here is your behavior, he said quietly. We're leaving. And Mom, don't bother sending that birthday invitation. As we walked out, Andrea's voice echoed behind us. You'll regret this, Helen. Nobody refuses Andrea Wilson. Nobody. Little did she know, I had recorded the entire conversation. The next day, I met Patricia over coffee. Her face went pale as I played the recording. This is exactly what she did to Claire, Patricia said, her voice trembling. Jack's college girlfriend. Andrea demanded her family's lakeside cabin as a family gift. When they refused, what happened? I asked. Andrea destroyed her, Patricia whispered. She spread rumors. Pregnancy scams, drugs. Claire's family had to move away. I stayed quiet then, not anymore. My phone buzzed with another message, this one from Robert's investment advisor. Mrs. Tyler, we need to discuss concerning transactions from your in-laws' accounts. Eleanor's been stealing from Robert's retirement fund, I told Patricia, scanning the texts. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Gambling debts. Patricia's hand shook as she pulled out her phone. There's more. Andrea convinced Robert to sign these documents last month. Look at the signature. I squinted. That's Jack's signature. But he never. She forged it, Patricia said grimly. Just like she forged Claire's signature years ago. I found a whole folder. Jack's voice cracked behind us. I just got the strangest call from Atlantic City, a casino's collection department. He looked shaken. I took his hand. Sit down, Jack. There's something you need to see. We spent hours going through the evidence, the forged signatures, the drained accounts, the sabotage business deals, the gambling debts. As Andrea's web of lies unraveled, I watched decades of manipulation click into place in Jack's mind. She's been calling my hospital too, he said quietly, telling him I'm planning to quit. They almost reassigned my position. Patricia touched his arm gently. Jack, there's something else you need to know about Claire. As she told him everything, the weight of Andrea's betrayals crushed Jack's resolve. His shoulders sagged under the weight of it all. But his eyes burned with newfound clarity. Meanwhile, Andrea's reign of terror was beginning to implode. At the country club's monthly meeting, her tirade against me was interrupted by a stern voice. Mrs. Wilson, we need to discuss your outstanding gambling markers and these bounced checks. That night, Robert called, his voice hollow. Helen, did you know about the retirement account? I just found out, I said softly. 30 years of savings, he whispered. She said she was investing in real estate. Real estate, Jack said bitterly, glancing at the documents strewn across our kitchen table. Mom doesn't know anything about, oh God, the house demands. That's what this was all about, I said, the realization hitting me like a tidal wave. She needed collateral for her gambling debts. Patricia nodded grimly. She's underwater with some very dangerous people. Later that night, Robert's voice was firm over the phone. I've called a family meeting tomorrow. Andrea needs to face what she's done. When the call ended, Jack pulled me into his arms. I'm so sorry, Helen. All these years, I never saw it. We'll get through this, I assured him. Yes, we will. Without her. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Andrea. You'll pay for this, Helen. I made Jack who he is. He's nothing without me. Nothing. But her threats were hollow now. The truth was out, and her meticulously constructed world was crumbling. In the lawyer's office the next day, Robert's voice was steady but heavy with emotion. The papers are signed. After 35 years, I never thought it would end like this. You left me no choice. Andrea screeched, her voice raw with desperation. If Helen hadn't turned everyone against me. You stole my retirement, Andrea. Robert interrupted coldly. You forged our son's signature. The gambling, the lies. At that moment, a burly man appeared in the doorway. About Miss Wilson's markers at Golden Sands Casino. I'm not responsible for her debts, Robert said, his tone final. We're divorced now. Weeks later, Maria sent me a text. Just drove past Andrea's new place. You won't believe it, she's in that tiny complex by the highway. Jack returned from his therapy session that evening, looking lighter than I'd seen him in years. Dr. Stevens helped me understand so much about my childhood, the manipulation, the guilt trips. I can't believe I let her control me for so long. He smiled softly. Dad called. She tried to crash Margaret's garden party. They had to escort her out. Apparently, she was screaming about how everyone betrayed her. Meanwhile, my real estate business was thriving without Andrea sabotaging deals behind the scenes. 3 bids had come in for my newest development that week alone. Months passed. My empire grew stronger, and my confidence soared. I even bought the building Andrea was evicted from. Karma, as they say, works in mysterious ways. The holidays arrived, and our annual party was in full swing. Friends, family, and laughter filled our home. Through the window, I spotted a familiar figure standing in the snow watching. Andrea, alone. Inside, Robert, now looking years younger since the divorce, raised his glass. To family, the real kind. To consequences, Maria added with a smirk. The next morning, a gold-embossed envelope arrived. Andrea's rescheduled birthday party invitation. The irony was delicious. I took a red marker, wrote return to sender in bold letters, and added a sticky note. Unlike houses, some gifts are easy to return. Through my office window, I watched the mail carrier pick it up. Somewhere across town, in a dingy apartment with a view of the highway, Andrea Wilson would receive one final reminder. She had no power here anymore. Not over my house. Not over my marriage. Not over my life. My phone buzzed. A new client referral. Life was good. And success, I realized, truly is the best revenge. While Andrea sat alone in her small apartment, surrounded by gambling debts and burned bridges, I stood in the home I built with my loving husband, a thriving business, and a chosen family that stood by me through it all. Sometimes, prom doesn't just knock, it takes away your country club membership and replaces it with a view of the freeway.